Hi, everybody. I'm Ginger Gentile, the Executive Director of the National Parents Organization. And I wanted to thank you all for joining me tonight. We're going to have a very interesting topic, which is using something that has become big news in pop culture, which is Netflix's A Marriage Story, which is directed by Noah Baumbach, and how we can use this popular movie to talk about shared parenting. Now, first of all, as the kids say, spoiler alert, I'm going to be revealing some key plot points from the movie. So if you haven't seen it already and really want to watch it, you can probably guess where the story goes. But I will be talking about the end of the movie, the beginning of the movie. So if you really want to be surprised, maybe watch this video later after you've watched A Marriage Story. So Marriage Story stars one of my favorite actresses, Scarlett Johansson. And basically it's a story about a couple who, if you've seen the movie, who really do love each other. They have a great creative relationship together, but the marriage begins to fall apart. Now, what's interesting about the film, and this is very important to understand and to talk about the film, is that at no point does the mom accuse the dad or the dad accuse the mom of anything basically at all. They start the movie reading a love letter to each other in a therapist's office because they are divorcing, but they talk about all of the good qualities that the other person has. And these range from quirks to nice things they like about each other, such as being creative or considerate, but also both clearly mention how good of a parent the other parent is. Now, before I get a little further, if you can, share this video on your own page. Share this video to any groups that talk about divorce, separation, family court reform, child support reform. So what's very interesting about the film is we start off with both the mom and the dad loving each other. The marriage isn't working. And my big takeaway before I get into how we can use this film to talk about shared parenting is one of the big lessons of the film is that when you get married or form a family with somebody, it's so important to talk about what expectations are and not leave conversations for later. Because one of the reasons for the breakdown of the marriage is that they can't decide on where to live, they can't decide whose career is more important, and the mom believes that at some point they'll move back to the West Coast so she can pursue her acting career, whereas the dad believes they are very happy having a family life in New York City. He considers himself a New York family, and this becomes very important to the plot. And basically, they agree that they're going to have a normal, sympathetic divorce. They're going to work this out without lawyers. Then the dad, and one of the lawyers says later, so you're nicer in divorce than in marriage, lets the mom take the kid to LA to pursue an acting job, that she has a job in a pilot. And when she's there, someone offhandedly says, oh, you're not using a lawyer? Why don't you call up my lawyer? She was excellent. She really fought for me in the divorce, and you need someone to fight for you too. And Scarlett Johansson meets Laura Dern's character, who is, let's call her a barracuda of a lawyer. She's very sympathetic to the mom's cause, but also is very clear we need to play tough with this. They ambush the dad with divorce papers and make it very clear that they're going to establish themselves as a Los Angeles family. And the big takeaway from this film, and this is what you should use when you're talking about this, is that a breakdown of a marriage, a divorce, that was going to be amicable, settled without lawyers, as soon as one lawyer gets involved, tensions rise, things begin to get very nasty, and instead of the couple talking amongst themselves, they begin to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers' fees. And now what's really clear about this movie is that while this is an upper middle class or middle class family, they are not a wealthy family. So one lawyer says very clearly he charges $900 an hour and his associate charges $400. As he says, if you have a smart question, a tough question, call me. You have a stupid question, call my associate who's only $400 an hour. Now you can imagine one day of work, that's about $9,000 right there. And we haven't even gone to trial. We're just getting to know you, doing some paperwork. And the big takeaway from this, to me, isn't that lawyers are unnecessary or they're bad or they're evil or they're money makers. It's that why on earth does the system allow divorcing parents to use lawyers in the first place? Why do they allow them to go before a judge? Why does this adversarial process even exist in a case where there's no claims of abuse, of neglect, of abandonment, of alcoholism? Both say the other is a really good parent. They can't agree on where the child should live. And also the mother, by getting this legal advice from the lawyer, basically establishes residency in Los Angeles, and then the dad's lawyer says, you're screwed. And a very sympathetic, friendly lawyer who wants the best for his client says, you're screwed. You're now a Los Angeles family. He goes, but we've lived for 10 years in New York. Well, your child's enrolled in a Los Angeles school. She is originally from Los Angeles. She has family there. You are a Los Angeles family. This is a great point if people want to start talking about asking questions. You can ask questions in the comment bar. If you haven't already, please share this video on your page. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to give you the link so we can all share. Let's see if I can find it. So while I'm finding the link so we can share, I'm going to post this in the comments section. Please start posting your comments. I'm going to post this video right now here. So right here, guys, you have the link to the video. So let's all take a second. And I'm going to post this to the Erasing Family page. For those of you who don't know, I'm also the director of the documentary Erasing Family. Also the director of the documentary Erasing Family. Sorry, because now I'm getting a little feedback, so I'm going to post this on the Erasing Family webpage. Let's see if anybody has put it in a comment or a question. So please share this video right now. I'm going to share it on my post. And I'm waiting for someone to ask the first question. Has anyone here seen the movie and want to make a comment that I can read out loud? This is the time to type it as while I'm sharing. I'm sharing it on the Erasing Family page. And then I'll share it on my own Facebook page. So if everyone can share this video, this is how we get more views, and this is how we share what is the purpose, which is to use a pop culture moment to begin to talk, because anyone can see this film on Netflix. So, and also it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars, and more importantly, it's I should have said this at the beginning, it's an amazing film. It's I remember when I started filming, someone said to me, there's two types of movies in the world. There are movies that you see and it makes you want to pick up a camera and film your own film. And there's also movies that say, I can never make a movie that good. And this is one of those movies where it's very simple, but you're like, I can never make a movie that good, because it's just so concise on how they tell this story. And get back to how we can talk about this. So the main problem here is that a system exists that allows parents to make a horrible choice. At one point, the mom says her mother has to take out a loan against the equity of the house. And basically, one of the main characters, the dad, who won the MacArthur Genius Grant, which I think is about $1 million, is saying he's spending all of his grant money not on doing work with the theater company that he has, but paying for the divorce. And the reason why he is paying all this money for the lawyers is because he wants to establish that they really are a New York family, and he doesn't want to be a weekend dad traveling to California to see his son. Let me see if we have any comments and questions. Skybrick says, what movie? Marriage Story on Netflix. Ryan Powell says the movie is almost exactly what happens in Family's Court. Attorneys working to pin against each other. Bonnie Hutchins says, yes, I've seen it. I'm glad it's spreading awareness of the flawed system, and now 50-50 is a happy ending. Now, talking about happy endings or unhappy endings, what's key at the end is that the lawyer, she hands the mom divorce papers at the end and says, so we've established that when he is in LA, the custody will be 55% in your favor and 45% in the dad's favor. And that's just because, so it's really a small difference. It's a one-day difference. I don't want him to go around saying that he won and he got 50-50 custody. And that right there, and this is something that I saw talking to families when I was making the Erasing Family documentary, is that I would talk to kids and ask about their custody arrangements growing up. And I thought they would say something like a weekend with my dad, week with the mom, or it was about a week on, a week off, something normal. And the kids would always have these crazy percentages. They would say custody was 49-51, 63, I can't even do the math, 100 minus 63. And I was like, what is going on? Because who splits time like this? If I told you right now, you're going to spend 83% of your time at work, you would say, you'd have to sit down and calculate those numbers. And a lot of this has to do with child support and increasing child support arrangements by increasing 1 percentage point. And the other thing that I want to bring about this film is that the film takes place in California. And living in California, most people I talk to assume that California is a 50-50 state. The National Parents Organization Shared Parenting Report Card, which you can find on our website or simply going to sharedparenting.org, California actually gets a D. And that's because while joint legal custody, which is decision-making, is the norm in California, not joint physical custody. It's actually pretty backwards like that. But people assume they're going to walk in and get 50-50. And there's a great scene also when you go into the family court where you see how overburdened the system is and how the judge says, I don't know this family at all. I'm new to this, so I'm going to assign a custody evaluator. Now, they don't say how much the custody evaluator costs, but as we all know, custody evaluations can cost up to $50,000. Please put in the comments how much your custody evaluation costs if you want to share it. And it's basically this woman who sits there and watches them very awkwardly eat dinner, because it's very awkward to have dinner with your child with a stranger watching you. And custody evaluations, which I always feel like there is a place if there is an accusation of abuse or neglect, or that the house is completely substandard or something like that. But to have to put on this show to show that you are a decent parent, when again, neither person in this divorcing couple is accusing the other party of anything. This is the key takeaway of the film. There's no accusation of abuse. Maybe the mom drinks a little too much wine. Maybe the dad is a little too focused on his job. But really nothing. And throughout the whole process, they both continue to care and love for each other. She cuts his hair in one scene. They ask how the other person is doing. Maybe under a different circumstance, if this marriage could have been healed. But what we are really seeing with this film is how what should have been a friendly divorce, an amicable divorce, a divorce without lawyers, as soon as one lawyer gets involved, you're basically going to the nuclear option. And again, I don't think it's the parents to blame about this. The real problem is when one of her coworkers suggests she gets a lawyer, and then the other problem is that the system allows it. Because people do what we are allowed to do and what we are encouraged to do. Most people don't have all the information. They don't know how family court works. And the dad's lawyer, there's some great stuff in there where he's trying to explain, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. He's like, well, the judge will consider you to be in Los Angeles family now because you're out here all the time to see your son. And he goes, well, what do you want me to do? Not come and visit to see my son? He goes, yeah, then you'd be accused of being a neglectful father. There's basically no way to win. And then by making a nice home for his child, then it's like, well, he's establishing residency in California, so the child should stay in California. So I'm also going to start reading some comments. Ryan Powell, do you think they would have worked together better if she would have used therapy at the beginning of the show? Yeah, I think that, one of the big takeaways that I have about this is that couples therapy is really vital. And Warren Farrell talks about that there's 4 key factors for a child being healthy after divorce, and one of which, one is 50-50, basically near equal time with each parent. But another factor is ongoing couples counseling before there's a crisis, so the family learns how to work together. That being said, and I'll say this all the time, mediation is amazing, counseling is amazing, but it really has to be done with competent people. And there has to be some stakes involved, and the counselor basically I don't think did a good job because he let her walk away. And again, this is not a situation of abuse. If you see the counseling scene, it's not like the dad goes ballistic and starts yelling and throwing stuff and the therapist gangs up on the mom. She just is kind of like, I don't want to be there. So I think there has to be some more encouragement, but also people have to really be trained on how to deal with these high conflict situations, because again, if you were able to get along, you wouldn't need therapy, you probably wouldn't be getting divorced. So I think that's really something that's a big key takeaway here. Let me see who else has some comments. So Frederick Ken Peters said he spent $30,000 for 3 different custody evaluations. As the lawyer says very clearly, you're going to spend your kid's college fund to try to see your kid. The system should not allow this. And we had on Ashley Nicole Russell a few weeks ago, who does collaborative law. And what collaborative law, she points out, is it's different than mediation in that both parties have counsel. So this is good if you can't really agree on stuff on your own. But you're working to get together an agreement and you have to settle together. And it's about creating a win-win situation to stay out of court, and you're able to solve high conflict situations like this. And one thing she encourages her clients to do is just keep on talking with the other person, because most lawyers say everything should go lawyer to lawyer, which of course they, as lawyers, that's the correct advice, and they get more money, more billable hours, but that you have to keep these lines of communication open, and that's one thing that collaborative law does. So what we need to encourage are these middle grounds, because if people can settle on their own, great. And most couples do settle completely on their own. But if you are having problems, it can't just be, well, go to mediation, good luck to you. We need to give people really robust solutions, like mediators who know how to deal with high conflict situations, and also a collaborative law process. So again, there has to be some help and some standards, and also society, has to step in and say, you really have to work it out for the best interest of the kids. I'm going to read some more comments and questions. Bonnie Hutchins-Vogel, I didn't like how the dad shot himself in the foot and led viewers to assume that one parent has to do something wrong to lose. It never ends that quickly. So I think what's key here is that this is not a film about parental alienation or a 10-year custody battle. In a way, it ends quickly, and most divorces do end within a year. The people who are probably following and watching this video are outliers in some way. And I think it's good to recognize that when we talk about people who are struggling through the divorce process, who are being alienated, while it's a large minority, it's still a minority of cases. Most people are able to solve this on their own. And the other thing that's interesting in the film is that Laura Dern's character, the lawyer, does point out rightfully that the system is designed, or I think it might have been Alan Alda, was designed to protect people who are in abusive situations or who are being abandoned and really needs child support because they were left. But it's not good at dealing with these cases where that's not the case, where you just have a high conflict situation, but it's not about one person doing wrong, because the system always seeks to assign blame. And just by looking at the judge in the courtroom, who basically sees this high conflict situation, washes his hand and says, I'm going to make you hire an evaluator and do whatever she says because I don't have time to deal with this. More comments. David Miller, those are the tricks of the legal trade. David Miller, if the system shouldn't allow this, then what's the solution? Because obviously the judges, former lawyers, are going to push for their comrades to get business. Good question, David. So I think what's really key is that we need a new system. And talking to ex-judges, one thing they've said to me is that the system is so broken. Let's talk about California. There are 200 forms that you can fill out in family court. One lawyer, the judge said, this is crazy. A lawyer can't keep track. And 70% of clients in California, that's where I have stats for, that's where the movie takes place, are pro se, which means they are self-representing. So what we have is a system that's incredibly complex. And what we need is a streamlined system and one that has a built-in triage so that, let's say, I would call the couple of the Marriage Story as a medium conflict couple, and that they can't settle this on their own. They can't just sit down at a table and deal with this. This also isn't a case of borderline personality disorder, narcissism. It's not a case of someone's a psychopath. It's not a case of someone doing an active campaign of denigration and parental alienation. They're a couple that needs help, but not years of help. And so we need to be able to differentiate and give different types of services. But also, if the system is designed to say the outcome should always be maximizing the time that the child spends with each parent, unless there's something really egregious going on. Instead of saying who gets a little more, who gets this, who gets that, and allowing these types of negotiations. I mean, what if, the system said, legal fees for any divorce by a lawyer are capped at $3,000 per lawyer, let's say. I'm just throwing a number out there. We could also say 5,000, 1,000, 10,000. Just as, for example, Medicaid caps what a doctor can charge for an operation. There's a lot of professions that cap what you can charge, right? And then these custody battles probably wouldn't happen because the lawyer says, if I take on a divorce case, the most I can make is $3,000. You think they'd prolong these that much? So it's really re-examining the system, and also by having default shared parenting, because then, both the lawyers would have said, look, was he abusive? Was she abusive? No. Neglectful? No. Alcoholism? No. You're going to get 50-50. So let's just settle this right now. So some more comments. Rick Tobin, the fact that both parents in this film continue to communicate with one another is an amazing reason why they're able to end it fairly well, as opposed to a more typical racing family type situation where all community tends to end. Agreed. Samantha Smith. Except when marriage counselor told him that the reason why she left you was because of your derogatory comments and criticism. His response, well, it's my way of venting rather than punching her. Not to mention initiated custody evaluation while they were attending marriage counseling. I don't think he initiated the custody evaluation while they were attending marriage counseling. That was later in the film. But again, there's a reason why they're getting divorced. And Noah's character was unable to really listen to what his wife wanted, which was to further her career. And she was unable to really have a clear definition of, hey, what does it mean that eventually we'll go to LA? Is this in 20 years? Is this next year? Is there a timeline? And one thing, and this is not about the divorce system, this is just general relationship advice, talking about these things and being clear about these things is super important. We tend to assume things, and when we assume, we make an ass out of you and me. And one thing, talking to a lot of couples who have gone through divorce is I will ask, well, they'll tell me stuff as, well, I assumed she'd be a stay-at-home mom. I assumed the kids would be raised Jewish. I assumed, and it's like, well, were there any discussions? And I remember, talking with a boyfriend who unfortunately I broke up with, we were talking about having kids, and he said to me, you, Ginger, would be the primary parent because you're the woman. You'd have more parenting responsibilities. And I said, well, I thought you would be the primary parent because you're the one more interested in having children and seem to be more affectionate around children. So I assumed that you would be the one taking them to school and doctor's appointments because I'm less affectionate around children. And then we had to have a good conversation because it's like we're both assuming that the other person would do 70% of the work. So it's good to have these conversations before, and also realizing that things can change. What might have been fun for her to do this off-Broadway theater, eventually she realized she wanted to have a career in Hollywood. George Rarat, the current system does not determine if both are fit parents and grandchildren at equal time. The court tries to make one parent a winner and the other a visitor. Agreed, and that's why this system, and it has, a fairly happy ending, and it's based on Noah, the director's real life marriage and divorce with the actress Jennifer Jason Leigh. But the allowing this fighting to happen encourages the fighting to happen. Hey, Cash, good to see you on here. Cash Jackson just joined. Samantha said she was talking about her case. So if there's any more questions, put them in there. And while we're wrapping up, if you haven't already, please share this on your wall. I'm going to post right now the link. Share it to other groups that you're in, send it in a private message. And when you're using this film, I think the key takeaway is that a couple who's divorcing, who loves each other, who is able to communicate, ends up spending probably over $100,000 in a custody battle that shouldn't have ever taken place. And that's why we need default shared parenting. And what's interesting about this movie is it's not about an extreme case. It's not a case of child abduction, of parental alienation, of abuse. It's about a couple that loves each other. And at the end of the film, you can tell they still love and respect each other. But somehow they ended up spending, they don't ever say the amount, but I'm going to guess, all said and done, $250K on this divorce. That with a different system, again, maybe just culturally, I don't think they could have just settled it. And in Raising Family, we have this scene of how in Sweden, most people, the majority of people, they sell this on the kitchen table. They have a form, they fill it out, they sign it, they mail it, and the divorce costs the postage stamp, basically, maybe a small filing fee. And that's in part because, and this is very interesting also, that in Sweden, and this is a mistake, that there's a law that makes shared parenting the norm. The law actually states in Sweden that custody automatically goes to the mother. But the norm in Sweden socially is that there should be shared parenting, and 60% of parents after divorce or separation share parenting equally. So I think also one thing that we can do is when we talk to people, we see other people going through this, especially all of you out there who have gone through messy divorces, is to be an ambassador and be like, look, let me tell you about how family court really works. You're going to end up spending, and it might not be $100,000 or $200,000 like in the movie, but whatever it is, it's a lot to you. I'm going to guess, you're basically going to end up spending what you make in a year or two on a divorce if you lose lawyers. So if you're making more in the $40,000 range, you're going to spend more in the $40,000 figures. If you're making $100,000, you're going to spend the $100,000 figures. So be an ambassador and tell people, stay out of court. You're not going to have this fair, impartial judge who's going to listen to the evidence. He has 100 cases to get through in that day. A judge I talked to in California had 2,000 cases on his docket. So they're basically looking at custody evaluations. The custody evaluation at a minimum is $10,000. It could go up to $50,000 or more. And the best is to keep talking, keep the lines of communication open. And if you can't settle this on your own, look for a collaborative divorce lawyer or a mediator who's very skilled with high conflict couples, and they should be able to talk about their success rate. And also, I think what's very key in this too is to keep the lines of communication open with the family of the other person. And if you've seen the film, the dad gets saved because the mom at one point, the mom's mom says, look, I'm going to give you some information about the lawyer she's using, and I'm one lawyer I know that she hasn't talked to, because the mom does a very common tactic of interviewing 12 lawyers so that way the dad can't use any of them. I'm going to see very quickly if there's any other comments. Frederick Ken Peters, difficulty because it creates a profit motive for high conflict attorneys, max billable hours. Judges are ex-divorce attorneys who need family attorneys to donate to their re-election campaigns. There's no financial incentive, which is why a grassroots movement, which National Parents Organization is one of many organizations who is working on this issue. And what National Parents Organization does is we have a three-pronged approach. The first is producing academic quality research on shared parenting statutes, on laws, on child support and how it influences shared parenting, on how this affects children that can be shared, by going to events where decision makers are at to bring our message to them, but also by having affiliates. We now have affiliates in over 25 states who are on the ground doing education with judges, doing education with lawyers, doing education with the general public, and importantly, in the state legislature to change laws. And then also we're going to begin a program of judicial education this year. So very exciting things going on. We encourage you to go to nationalparentsorganization.org or sharedparenting.org to see how your state did on the Shared Parenting Report Card and to see how you can get involved. Because what we need is an army of really high quality volunteers who are willing to give a few hours a week to get stuff done, to network. And our message, I think, works and is powerful in part because it is a message grounded on compassion research, and also by showing that we want to spread the love. It's not about being an angry dad or an angry mom. It's not a gender-based message. It's not a message that is just about appealing to one political group. It is a message that is grounded on academic research and the experience of our members. And you don't have to be a parent to join. We're actively recruiting lawyers, mediators, social workers to join and to lead chapters. Keith Humphrey, there's a single source of funding which encourages every state to maximize child support transfer payments. For every dollar a state or local government spends on child support program, receives 66 cents from the federal government, also known as the Federal Financial Participation, or FFP. Exactly, in most states you only get child support if you don't have shared parenting, so this encourages states to not pass shared parenting. Adrian Thrash, thanks for all your work from Argentina. For those of you who don't know, I spent 13 years in Argentina where I directed the movie Erasing Dad. So, gracias Adrián por los saludos desde Argentina. Es un gusto verte en las redes hablando de este tema y espero que la gente en Argentina pueda disfrutar de la historia de un matrimonio on Netflix. I'm promoting a film that isn't my own and I don't work for Netflix, but it really is emotional and it's a great film to share with people. And the film Erasing Family will be on a streaming service later this year. I'm hoping for Netflix. And it'd be a great companion piece. And hopefully we'll also get the conversation going too. In the meantime, you can set up a community screening of Erasing Family. Go to erasingfamily.org. National Parents Organization chapters are setting up screenings as well. And talk to people about it and tell them that this isn't some crazy story. And again, the key takeaway, a divorcing couple that loves each other, that is not accusing the other party of anything, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars needlessly of their child's education fund. And everybody, all of the professionals they encounter are trying to blame the other side, figure out who to blame, and no one wants to help this family find a solution. And that's what we need to change. And National Parents Organization, in addition to fighting for shared parenting, is also about how can we make this process less adversarial? How can we make divorce healthier for children? It's always going to be rough for kids, but it doesn't have to be traumatic. So with that, I leave you. Please share this video, and we'll be doing these once a week. The date may change. Stay tuned, and we're going to have a lot of exciting guests on this year at National Parents Organization. So thank you so much. Remember, get involved. Turn that pain and frustration into fuel for the movement. Thanks. Bye.